Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dasch Cast. I am Curtis Dash, and joined with me, as always, is Brandon Colongo. Brandon, say hello.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Smash the like button and subscribe.
So we got NFL Week 9 reactions coming to you here. So the very first thing we're going to start with is our Florida-Georgia reaction. We actually want to start with that before we do Week 9 in the NFL. Real quick, obviously, that game is here in Jacksonville. It's near and dear to a lot of our Jacksonville hearts. Brandon, tell me about Florida-Georgia.
I love what I saw. It's making me feel a lot less on the fence about my original national champion pick. I haven't seen the Gators crush Georgia like this in a long time. And granted, it was all in the first half. Interestingly enough, I mean, the defense has really settled in the second half and stopped each other. But in that first half, it was a shootout, and boy, oh boy, did Trask and the Gators shoot out. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, it was tough to see Kyle Pitt take that hit and leave the game because, man, he was on a tear, and he's an amazing tight end. So, love to see him come back. Believe he had a concussion.
yeah. Another thing that's crazy about that game, like you said, there were 24 points scored in the second quarter. I mean, the majority of those 44 points were scored in the first two quarters of the game itself. Your boy Trash just getting closer and closer to proving you correct, maybe, that he is a draft pick that should not be slept upon if you're paying attention, Jaguar fans. So keep that in mind. Obviously, it's a big win for a Florida team beating that Georgia team at the time. I think that is huge, kind of cementing them as a serious threat for that national championship, like you're saying here.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see that as far as making me think that we have a chance against Bama. We played Bama tough last year, and it kind of got away right at the end. I think we had a lot of players return, and I think we'll be that much better and should be able to give them a good run for their money. And if we beat Bama, who knows what can happen.
Heard that. All right, moving on here. Let's go ahead and jump to the NFL. We're going to start with that Green Bay Packer win over a very decimated San Francisco 49er team down there in the Bay. Green Bay, obviously, Rodgers played extremely well. 4 TDs, had a hair over 300 yards just barely, 0 INTs. Great game overall against a team they should have won. I'm very thankful on a quick turnaround that we beat that team. Obviously, that is not the San Francisco team that we are used to seeing. I understand that, but nonetheless, it felt good to win there. Anyway, moving on, I would like to talk about, we have to do it, that Buccaneers beatdown. Brady coming off. How are you feeling about that, man?
I didn't like what Bruce Arians had to say. Once again, he publicly called out Tom Brady, which it wasn't Tom Brady's fault, really. In fact, watching the game, I remember looking at Bruce Arians' face, he didn't seem to be doing any coaching. He looked like a spectator. He looked like his face was my face watching this beatdown. He was in a shell outside of his body watching the game and not paralyzed, unable to do anything. And he said that that Mike Evans was open a lot and Tom Brady didn't get him the ball enough. Well, here's what really happened. Bruce Arians threw AB in on the second play to then proceed to get more snaps than Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. What is that going to do for team chemistry? How is AB supposed to come in there off, a couple weeks of practice and
Right.
all of
Not
a sudden
even
be their one
barely.
receiver when
Yeah.
both of those receivers were 1,000-yard receivers last year? No, it's preposterous. And everyone got targeted. Mike Evans was top targeted. He had 6 targets, which was shared with a couple others. So it was really the Bucs defense didn't make any stops for the first 3 drives, which the Bucs defense have been known to get off to a slow start. The problem is like the difference between the slow start against Green Bay and the difference
That's what I
with the
was
slow
getting ready to ask you.
yeah,
Good
the
call.
slow start against the Saints was that the slow start turned into a slow finish, and the Buccaneers defense looked mediocre at best. So all-around team loss. I don't think there's any finger pointing necessarily that needs to happen, besides the fact that all the supposed experts were writing off Drew Brees so much. I mean, he just got tired of it, and they ended up running into a buzzsaw. Not to mention, the Saints had Jameis Winston, the ultimate secret weapon for the Saints, knowing how to take on that defense and offense. For different reasons, he was a part of the offense and would know how to take apart the defense from having played against the defense. And so They really had a good matchup. The Saints could be the Bucs' Achilles heel, so I would like to not see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, here are my thoughts on the game real quick. When it comes to Tom Brady, it's about time. I kind of thought we were going to have one of these games at some point. It's just, it was a poor game. It happened. Now, thankfully, it happened at this point in the season. It did happen in the playoff. Now, the red flag, obviously, you brought it up. The Saints could be the Achilles heel. That is a big red flag, and I know the Bucs are a big red flag. But it's, to me, it seems as if you're going to have to really just avoid the Saints altogether right now, and maybe going into the playoffs in general. I feel like Green Bay, that is a blueprint for Green Bay to beat you. However, the way that the Saints did it, if Green Bay can play that way and Aaron Rodgers be that on
Well,
point
here's
like
the
Drew Brees
difference.
was,
The Saints are one of very few teams that can pressure, but then also have great corner. I mean, they had Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins covering solid receivers, and their front four getting pressure. If their front four gets pressure, you have two top corners
we got
and
Zadarius
safeties
Smith.
over
We
the
can get
top.
pressure. It's just we'll see. Well,
But
I mean,
then
yeah.
do you have the two top corners to lock down their receivers? That is the question.
Yeah.
And the only team that I would say that really has that matchup in that division would be the Rams, maybe.
Fair enough.
Where they
Let's go
they
ahead
had,
and
yeah.
let's go ahead and move on. Let's do the Pittsburgh and Cowboys kind of game, because that is a game that I think we both thought would have been a blowout, and Pittsburgh found a way to almost lose. Dallas decimated, finds a way, and Big Ben is, of course, hurt. Comes back, plays the game, fighting through injuries. I think it's his knees. He's going to be back in, and like day-to-day kind of thing. This game is obviously, this team obviously runs on Big Ben. If he is gone, there is no chance. I think all these wins will be for naught. Dallas, good job. How are you kind of feeling about this game? Does it prove your point a little bit about Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so I'm glad I kept them at 3 and didn't, do anything like put them at 1. So they just were not impressive. They got the win, but first of all, props to the Cowboys for actually having some fight in them, and they should have won that game, actually. I thought they were 1 or 2 bad calls away from actually closing that game off. One could argue they were robbed. However, I won't get too much into that because, like the Cowboys would do, is they found a way to lose. And their new quarterback probably is the go-to guy. I would stick with this guy.
Yeah, what a strange situation the Cowboys are kind of stuck into. Pittsburgh, obviously, not having Ben would be disastrous for them going forward.
Oh, yeah, that would take them from playoff contention into, should be first-round exit.
It's so frustrating to me looking at that. And as a guy who put them 1, and I understand the shot there, but as a guy who put them 1, they are still undefeated. Now, it would be a crying waste of a season for Big Ben to get hurt now and all those wins just be for naught, because we know that would be a thing. I just do not want that to happen for the NFL, like the NFL's sake, and I mean even Steelers fans' sake. Moving on to the Bills beatdown in Seattle, excuse me. Mr. Unlimited going 28-41, 2 TDs, but 2 interceptions. Kind of maybe providing blueprints as to how to beat the Seahawks. Is Russell Wilson as unfathomable as we believe? How are you kind of feeling about that?
Well, I think what happened is, again, like great quarterbacks are ultimate lipstick, and the Seahawks don't have as good of a team as people might give them credit for. Russ kind of hides a lot of their inadequacy. And so when Russ is not at his A game, which he wasn't, and there's a couple of things that you can do that'll take Russ out of his A game. One thing is getting your head around on defense. But another thing, obviously, like a lot of teams do, is being physical and getting pressure, and that's something that Buffalo did. So, props to Buffalo for making the big interceptions. I wish I had had the courage of my convictions to call it, because I did mention last week that it could happen, but I just didn't want to pick against Russ. And, hey, this is what the Bills needed. Now they're starting to pull ahead in that division and justify me putting them in my top 10.
Very high quality win, 100% necessary. The way Josh Allen had kind of been performing as of late, it looks like he had struggled. He did not struggle against them, having very good numbers. Even Stephon Diggs, who did not have a touchdown, showed out. I mean, 118 yards, 9 receptions. You had John Brown for 8 receptions and 99 yards. These receivers, I mean, and none of these had any touchdowns, but they moved the ball up and down the field, which is great for the numbers. For Allen, 31 to 38, 415, 3 touchdowns. Two of those rushing for the Bills on their 44-point to 34-point win. I'm That's great. That's a very high quality win. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. We've got NFL Week 10 pick'ems coming your guys' way, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. As always, thank you for listening. Please like, please subscribe, comment. Let us know how you guys are enjoying everything. Let us know what you're thinking if for topics and all that. Of course, Brandon is YouTube is linked in the description, and we will see you next clip.